to the live video hub interview. And as I drop the card down, I can reveal that today I'm actually joined by Sean Lawless of the Wigan Rugby Fans, Wigan Fan TV and blog, or Wigan Rugby Fans would be more. Yeah. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you very much for having me, Stephen.
It's my pleasure. And the wonderful thing is that you're actually broadcasting on the live video hub. So, as people join us, I suppose there are two questions. I mean, we've agreed 3 questions, but there are 2 questions to get us started. Now, I'm a Burnley lad. I live in Lancashire, but not everybody's going to know whereabouts Wigan is. So my first question to you, for your starter for 10, is where is Wigan?
Well, to anybody that is from Wigan, it's the centre of the universe, I think. For anybody that isn't from Wigan, it's in the northwest of England, maybe 15 miles, 20 minutes drive outside of Manchester, and pretty much equidistant to Liverpool and Manchester. So it's embedded in between 2 really big cities. It has a pier. It doesn't have a course, but it has Wigan Pier, which is probably its famous landmark. And I guess anybody that is a George Orwell fan or has read any of George Orwell's book, it was probably put on the international map by George Orwell in his book The Road to Wigan Pier, which is all about poverty and something completely different. But yeah, George Orwell, the famous writer author of 1984, wrote a book called The Road to Wigan Pier, which is a very interesting book about northern Britain at the time of his writing.
Yeah, it's a very insightful observation of life back in those days, and we're very fortunate that he did, in fact, get involved and did write the book. Of course, all his books, 1984 is probably the one we all know, and the one that's most talked about. And
the conditions have changed now, I must say, in Wigan. If anybody picks up The Road to Wigan Pier and expects that to be a modern day take on Wigan, I can assure you, things have developed a little since George Orwell wrote that book.
Indeed. And we said hello to Robert, who's in New York.
Hi, Robert.
And now we say hello to Brigetti, who's in Cape Town. Now, Cape Town is rugby union, isn't it?
Cape Town's rugby union, but it was interesting that you mentioned New York then. New York is a place where there will be, hopefully, in the next 2 years, a rugby league side. There's a bid being put in by New York Rugby League. So hopefully, I can't remember the gentleman's name, sorry, that you just put on the screen.
Robert.
Robert, yeah. So hopefully, Robert, in a couple of years' time, you'll have a rugby league side in New York, in the state of New York, to enjoy the sport that we're about to discuss, which is a completely different sport to a lot of people. And in fact, in 24 days' time, there is actually a rugby league game being played in Denver in America, which is one of the first games in America to test the water over there, so to speak, to gauge what the interest will actually be for the American audience, which is really exciting.
Fantastic. Which leads to the second question. We now know where Wigan is, equidistant between Liverpool and Manchester. But the next question is, as a sport, what is rugby league?
It's a fantastic sport. Rugby league is my favourite sport. It's obviously what I do the videos about. I guess the best way to describe it to any American viewers is it's a bit like NFL but without the pads. It's instead of 4 downs, you've got 5 downs, and you pass the ball backwards. It's a collision sport. It's a tough sport. It's an endurance sport, and it's very much, unfortunately, a minority sport in Britain. It's still a popular sport in Britain, but you've got the 2 types of rugby. You've got rugby union, which is the most popular, and that's the one where, if anybody sees the Rugby World Cup and people like Sonny Bill Williams, Johnny Wilkinson, the famous household names, certainly in the UK of rugby, that's the sport that they tend to play. Rugby league was a breakaway sport in 1895, so it's 120 years old. The sport's a very old sport. But yeah, it's a very exciting sport. It's a breakaway one. But I guess, like any sport, the aim is, or most sports, the aim is to score more points than your opposition. You do that by putting the ball down behind their goal. So like in American football, where you basically have to get over into the end goal. In rugby league, you do pretty much the same thing, but you have to place the ball on the floor or dive with the ball on the floor. So it's certainly, if anybody likes collision sports like American football and soccer and football, it's certainly one to try out, and I guarantee that if you bear with it for 20 minutes, you'll be hooked for life.
Yeah. And like football, professional rugby league is professional.
Yeah. So in the UK we have what's called the Super League. So we have 12 professional teams in the UK. In Australia, there's the NRL, which has 16 professional teams. It's a massive sport in Australia. It's a national sport in Australia, rugby league. But yeah, it's a professional sport over in the UK.
And Robert's just saying that it's strange for Robert to make a typo, but I know rugby. Played 1 year in college in Connecticut. That was tough. Wow.
Yeah, it is a tough sport, and I think that's the amazing thing, particularly for American viewers to view it. And I think one of the first reactions that a lot of American people watching it will be is, where are the pads? Where's the helmets? There's no helmets, there's no pads. It's that full-on collision. It's a fantastic sport. It is brutal, and it is tough, Robert. You're right.
So we've done the geography and we've done what the game is about.
Yeah.
Which brings us now to your journey. We only started in January 2018, and best to say, at the moment, that you've gone from a standing start to having 7,000 views on the show, and 9,000 on YouTube, which we'll come to afterwards, from a standing start. So let's go back. Where did it all begin, and what is the show about? And describe the growth.
Yeah, so I started a website at the start of 2017, which was very much a blog about rugby league and about Wigan in particular. And I was writing, and then I was finding by the end of the 2017 season, I thought I could do this for another year. But to be honest with you, writing a preview all the time, it'd be much easier just to talk about it. It's much more enjoyable. And in the UK, I guess the most famous football club, soccer team will be Manchester United. So Manchester United have got two really good accounts, one called Full Time Devils and one called the United We Stand. And they're very much fan-orientated YouTube channels where they do match previews, match reactions, interviews with fans as they're coming out of the stadium after the game. And these reactions, because it's so emotional after a game, after a victory, after a defeat, we're going viral, and they've got hundreds of thousands of views. So I spent a bit of time over Christmas 2017 looking for a way that I could do that within rugby league, and I spent a lot of time trying to find a software, trying to find a system. I stumbled across Be Live. So in February this year, I did 2 or 3 trial runs, invited people to join me, and luckily there was 3 other people that wanted to join me in this venture, and we did it, and the take-up was fantastic. I'm very lucky in regards that there's a lot of rugby league Facebook groups, so I post to the groups all the time, and that slowly built up viewers and followers. And then I repurposed it to YouTube and as a podcast, and that slowly built up followers. Up to the point where we were talking off air, Stephen, to the point where I introduced the bot, the ManyChat bot, which I picked up from your course maybe 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago. Put a little subscribe button at the bottom of any blogs that I do, or any videos that I post, or anything like that, just saying subscribe for free here for future videos. And I think that was key to get the message across, that a lot of channels within sports, reaction channels, sporting channels, you've got to pay for. So I just thought putting it that way would get a lot of interest. So yeah, I used the chat, the bot, and I've got 147 subscribers on the bot in 2 weeks, which is fantastic. But then basically sharing the video across to as many different groups as I can. For the bot, sharing as many into as many different Facebook groups, different fans of different teams, and that way you're building up the views, you're building up a history, and then putting it onto YouTube. And there's such a large demand for people that want to watch sporting videos and rugby league videos across the world, really, and that picked up on its own, really, which it's just been 5 months, 6 months into it, a fantastic growth, and I'm really excited about what we can do over the next 6 months.
Indeed. And I mean, the thing is, when you do start a show, you've got to have a format, and you've got to have a way of engaging people. So how do you how do you try to get as many people engaged live when you on the show?
One of the easiest ways I've got of getting people engaged is we normally do a preview show for a game. So there's an up-and-coming game. So for example, tonight I've got a preview show for a game on Saturday. One of the easiest ways is tell us your score predictions. Everyone's got an opinion on a sporting game. Just tell us your sporting opinion. Just tell us your score prediction, and people will comment, and people will disagree. So people will comment on their comments, and then all of a sudden you've got a good conversation going. The other way of doing it is to just ask a question, a very, very simple question. Who will win? Who's been the best player this season? Who would you like to see Wigan sign as a player? I'm fortunate or unfortunate enough at this moment in time that Wigan, the club, are going through a little bit of a transitional period. Our coach is leaving at the end of the season, the manager, and our star players leaving. So that obviously creates a lot of debate. Is who would you like to see replace the head coach? So it's a simple question. Everyone has an opinion on it, and I think it's about tapping into that. Really, is in terms of the questions. Keep them simple, I would say.
Yeah. Are you able to pull sort of topics from the groups you talked about earlier as well?
Yeah, I think engaging with the groups and seeing what people what's hot at the moment is key, I guess. Like I said, rugby league is quite a minority or quite a small sport, so people tend to know about rumours or commenting on them within the group. So if there's a hot topic, we'll pretty much jump on a video straight away. So if we're going to announce a new signing or they announce that somebody's leaving, which has happened quite a bit over the past 2 weeks, we've been really busy with doing spontaneous videos. But you've got to strike whilst the iron's hot. That's when there's the most amount of interest in a topic. So get online.
Well, that's building a following, isn't it? For being known as the go-to show for information about Wigan Rugby League.
Yeah, absolutely. I see comments of there's like a little Facebook Messenger group that I was involved in, or I'm involved in, and something was announced. It was like, I can't wait for Wigan Fan TV tonight, or I hope Wigan Fan TV are going to do a show on this. So yeah, that you've almost had to, I guess, a little bit of pressure because you've got to then do it. But if you want to capitalise on the news topics or the stories at that point in time, then yeah, absolutely, you've got to do it.
Right. Right. Okay. Now you've slightly mentioned this one, but you did a live show on Facebook using BeLive.tv, and you're live on the live video hub too. But at the end of the show, doing the live show is only part of it, isn't it? So what do you do to repurpose the show after you've been live?
So the first thing that I do is to try and engage with, I think there's two key audiences that I still need to get to once I've done the Facebook Live one. For whatever reason, people may not use Facebook or they miss the live show. Obviously, it's still available there. But key one is YouTube and podcasting. There's a really big following for podcasting in sports. So what I do is I have tried repurpose.io. I didn't find that to work particularly well for my needs. So what I do is I download the video straight away from Facebook. So that's downloading then as an MP4. I'll upload the video into Apple iMovie. I'll put my sponsors either side, my intro, my outro, so that I'm giving the credit to the people that are sponsoring me. And then I'll upload that to YouTube, make sure I've got all the tags right, whatever the hot topics are at the time, particularly in light of any news stories around the sport. Even if it's not, for example, we're doing a preview tonight on Wigan versus Warrington, which is another side. So making sure that I'm tagging Warrington in there. So Warrington fans, there's a vested interest for them to watch it. So making sure that you're getting the tagging right. And then I'll use from YouTube, I'll then copy the address, put it into an MP4 to MP3 converter, download the MP3, which only takes a few seconds compared to downloading a video. And then I re-upload that to Spreaker. And Spreaker, so Spreaker is where I use for the podcast, and then that picks up the RSS feed and takes it off to iTunes. So it's quite a nice little journey that it goes on. And it's quite nice. I've met a few people over the past few months and they say, I really enjoy listening to your podcast, which is quite interesting because I don't see myself as a podcaster. I see it as a video, as a vlog. But yeah, I use Spreaker, and then the RSS feed is picked up, goes over to iTunes. And it's interesting how people still engage with the show. And I've had to maybe change the way that I do the show in light that I know that people are going to be listening to it rather than watching it. So if you're talking about something that's on the screen, I think it's really important, if you are going to put it to a podcast, to almost explain it when you put a comment on the screen. Actually say what that comment is, because if somebody's listening to this podcast, they haven't got a clue.
Oh, that's very true. You've got to work with that, because for certain times last week, people who were guests on the show couldn't see the comments.
Okay.
So the only way they knew about them was by reading them out.
Yeah.
And that becomes something that you do normally, and it's all becomes part of the recording, which is very good. So Spreaker to iTunes. Yeah. Now, one thing I do get from this, and I said this before we came on air, is that you're really enjoying this.
Absolutely, yeah, it's fantastic. I was saying to you, I was really, really nervous before I did the first show. Mainly, I think people who are thinking about doing a show will go through the same type of anxiety or apprehension about it. Is you're worried about what people might think about doing the show. You know, you're putting yourself open to the public, you're putting yourself open to comments, open to criticism, open to constructive criticism, whatever that might be. And I think that leap of faith is difficult to do, but once you do it, I guarantee that you'll enjoy it. The interaction that you get from people that are watching your show, and it's amazing how it can grow and how it can go off into a completely different direction. As you well know, Stephen, people join the show and take it off, or somebody puts a comment in about a point that you didn't think, and all of a sudden you're off on another journey and another conversation. And a half an hour show could perhaps be a 3 hour show if you had the time, because of the amount of interest that you get. So yeah, it's really, really enjoying it, and really enjoying the amount of people that are engaging with it, and the amount of people that are recognising it, and the natural growth that it's had within 6 months is mind-boggling and really exciting.
Totally, to go from 0 to 7,000 views of video.
Yeah.
And you say, we were talking earlier, you were saying that because you're now using bots, I know RJ is still here, because you're now using bots, you send out a broadcast. When do you send your broadcast out?
So I tend to, the one thing that I don't want to do is lose subscribers early doors. So I'm restricting my broadcast via many bots to basically 2 minutes after the show starts. I'm not sending it, at the moment, I'm not sending it 10 minutes before a show starts, just to say, we're coming on live, or a day before, say, make sure you're watching tomorrow, because what I want is that the people to be viewing at the time that we're live, so that we can get the comments. So I tend to do it 2 minutes after the show starts, because that then allows for, perhaps a guest might be running late, as does happen sometimes, and we can't log in for whatever reason. Get them online, and then at least, hopefully by 2 minutes past 8 this evening, there'll be 147 messages sent across to people in Wigan, and hopefully they'll go onto the phones and we'll watch the show live and join in live. But yeah, I tend to do it just after the show started.
And currently, the number of people viewing the show concurrently is?
The maximum on the Be Live dashboard when you log in is 81, and I think that was the last show that we did, which was surpassed. Maybe the one before that was about 40, and that's down to the bot. That is simply down to the engagement at that time by sending the many chatbots out to people and getting them interested.
You know what? We all learn from each other, and that's the beauty of live video. Next time, tomorrow, I'm not going to send my broadcast message out 10 minutes before. I'm going to send it out 2 minutes afterwards and say, we are live. Join us. Yeah. See what effect it has, and then we can compare notes.
10 minutes is a long time for somebody to wait, isn't it, in the modern day? And you don't want somebody waiting around for 10 minutes. They might forget about it, but if you're live at that moment in time, you'll get what I call a casual browser or casual viewer. Thank you very much, RJ. And they'll be viewing it there and then. And I think that's the best way, I think, to get engagement on a live video. So what I've found so far in my 6 months or so of doing it.
I just want to put those stats in, because you say, as you say, you started in January.
Yeah. So I've got another tab open here. So the last video that I did was the 29th of May, so 2 days ago. And on Facebook, it's got 7.6 thousand views on that one. And then I go across to the YouTube tab, and there's 16,000 views for the last video on that, 12,000 for the one before that, 9.4 thousand for the one before that. I do have the odd video that only gets 200 views, 100 views on YouTube. but that is, I think, depends on the topic, depends on the timing, depends on the guest. But yeah, I think if, as I was saying to you off air, I was very fortunate the other day to have a BBC journalist come on. So the benefit that I had of that was that the fact that the BBC journalist obviously has a large following on Twitter. When I went live, that tweet went out, and when I repurposed it to YouTube as well, I did a nice little graphic with all the links on, and that was repurposed almost by him, and I think that's part and parcel why there's so many views, certainly for the last one.
Absolutely brilliant. I'm in awe. I'm learning from you. I mean, this is, as I said earlier, this is the beauty of it. So I'm going to ask a rather silly question, because I can do.
Okay.
What do you see the benefits of live video?
Well, there's lots of them. I mean, in terms of, for me, why I chose to make the deliberate change, I guess, is probably the best way to look at it. From doing a written blog to a live video, is timing. It was getting to the stage where you would write a blog, you would get the images and make sure that they were from Getty Images, make sure the photographers were credited right, spell check it over, put it out. And I think we're getting to the day and age, it's 2018, where getting engagement for a level of time to read something, you might be really proud of a blog article, but it doesn't really get that level of interest that you get from a video, where it's much easier from a video for somebody to casually browse it, lay in bed on the phone on an evening, just catching up with whatever videos might have been on Live Hub, for example, during the day. So I think you're more likely to get the casual viewers, the casual people partaking in this. I still do blogs every now and again, but I do a written blog when there's something to really write about. So I don't find myself with writer's block as much now. I can sort of save myself for when there's something worth writing about to write it.
Well, indeed. And the other thing is that you can go live and you plan the show and you know what's going to happen during the show, but you're creating content, aren't you? And when you're writing a blog, and it's just you, then you've got to concentrate fully. You've got to prepare. It takes a lot longer than doing 30-minute live video.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, even this, being on the opposite side of the table almost, it is a strange feeling, answering questions rather than being the person asking the questions, really. And I think I'm realizing that, how much easier it is just to be that person who may have the ideas about the questions, but then letting the answers run from those people that you invite. And like we said earlier, the content that you get is completely different to the content that you expect to get, and that's just the human nature, isn't it?
It is. It's the way that it flows, and questions come in, and people go off on topics, and people start talking between themselves in the chat, which is all good because they're still listening to us. Now, I've noticed you mentioned earlier, and this to anybody who's involved in live broadcasting, what they're trying to do to some extent is to monetize their efforts. And you mentioned that you take your video down from Facebook and then you add your sponsors. So
yes,
my question is, did you have those sponsors on the blog, or have they come since you went live?
They've come since I went live. To be completely honest about it, they're not monetized sponsors. They're basically cash-free arrangements in which I get sent free things, which initially works well. So yeah, I've got 5 or 6 sponsors that are tailored to Wigan, to the Wigan public. Like a sweet company. There's a company called Oddballs which produce like these bobble hats. But the benefit to me was, I get free things, I guess, to wear, and benefit for them is they're being put in front of the last video is however many 20,000 views across the 2 platforms. So that's a benefit for them. So I haven't managed to monetize the videos as of yet in terms of asking for cash for sponsorship, and whether I do that, I'm not too sure. I want it to remain a hobby, but obviously don't want to lose money. And any money that I did make from sponsorship would be reinvested into hopefully making the show better. But that's where the sponsorships came from.
I'll dial back a bit. This all comes from your passion for rugby league and Wigan in particular.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I like talking about rugby. People might not necessarily agree with my views on certain things, but that's where it all stems from. Is the passion for rugby and wanting to talk about rugby and trying to get rugby league in particular out to and Wigan in particular out to a wider audience and to grow the sport. We're in a very exciting moment at this moment in time. Like I said, there's hopefully a rugby league team going to be in New York in a couple of years, and they'll be playing in the English leagues. That's the remarkable thing now is 2018. Flying 8 hours on a plane to play a rugby game is no longer viewed to be a holiday or a trip or a once-in-a-lifetime game or a friendly or whatever you may see it. You look at the NFL and people are flying from West Coast to East Coast of America on a consistent basis, and those flights aren't an issue at that level. And that's what rugby league is expanded into now, which is a really exciting time. We've got, so like I say, we've got New York coming on board, hopefully within the next 2 years. And we've got probably the club that has blown every other team out of the water in terms of their social engagement, the media engagement, and they've only been established for 18 months, is the Toronto Wolfpack, based in Canada. And they're playing in the English Super League. So they basically play 4 games at home in Toronto, and then they'll fly over to England, play a block of 4 games in 4 weeks over here, back to Toronto, and that's the way that they view it. So it's a really exciting time for the expansion of rugby league across Northern America and Europe.
Yeah. Well, in that case, an invitation then, because I'm really enjoying this and it's going very well. We have a show on Monday, every Monday at 5 p.m. again, and it comes out of Ontario in Canada. Okay. So it will give you a chance, if you came on the show, and you are welcome to do so, it will give you a chance to talk to some Canadian fans.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be fantastic. I'll even bring my Toronto Wolfpack jersey from its drawer upstairs and put that behind me rather than the Wigan jerseys. But yeah, the growth of rugby league in Toronto in particular has been even more exceptional than the growth of this live video that I've started. It's been incredible, the growth.
And I'm going now. How did you discover Be Live?
A lot of Googling, I think, is the honest answer. A lot of Googling of the thing that I really struggled with was the actual Google search. What do you call this as an amateur? This platform. What is the term to enable you to search on Google to fall into the lap of Be Live? That and I can't remember the term that I eventually stumbled upon, but I managed to find it, and I thought that's exactly what I'm looking for. I saw various other platforms which were softwares that you had to download, and they were expensive, and I obviously wasn't sure on how successful this was going to be or whether I would continue it. So utilising the free trial from Be Live was the best way to go about it. Web-based, I've had people obviously using phones, using iPads, using laptops. That's the beauty of it. Really is the versatility and how people can use it. So, for example, the video that you mentioned that I'm doing this evening, 8 p.m. British time, it's actually myself based in England and a guy who's based in Manly in Australia. It's going to be 5 a.m. in Sydney, but he's going to come on the live video. It comes on from his iPhone, and we'll be talking opposite ends of the world and broadcasting to the world, which is really exciting. But it was simply a Google search and trial and error of seeing what price plans works for a hobby, and seeing what the versatility of such a platform could be.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I love too. This is international. Yeah. And we're talking to people in America, we've got people in Australia, whenever we want, because you said you do spontaneous shows. If something breaks as far as Wigan Rugby is concerned, then you can come live and you can go live straight away. You don't need to schedule or anything, you can just do it. Yeah. Which has got to be a boon, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as you just mentioned it, what I'd best do, because I actually prepared this earlier, is Sean just mentioned the show tonight, and I'm going to post a link now. If you're interested in rugby league and you can be from Canada or the US, then just follow. I've copied. Oh, sorry. I've posted the wrong thing. Just a minute. This is live video. Things go wrong. I'll try again. Right. I'm going to put the show link in this time. Then I'll read what I've just misposted. Right. Okay. So this is a link to Sean's show at 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. in the UK, linking Australia with the UK as they talk about rugby league, and it's going to be right. Okay, I'm going to try and read this. So it's Warriors Challenge Cup preview. Warrington fan Rob joins us from Manly, Australia, and you've got a bot running, and we've spoken about the bot already.
Yeah,
and it's a WTFV bot.
Okay. Well, what we're trying to do, I guess, tonight is preview a game that is on Saturday in the UK. It's on the BBC, which is a big opportunity for us to broadcast rugby league to a wider audience. It's on free television, basically. But yeah, hopefully tonight I might break the 150 subscribers on many chat. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. It should be a good show. Rob's good fun. He always gives me a bit of stick, and I always give him a bit of stick. He's a Warrington fan, I'm a Wigan fan, so yeah.
Right, so that fits, doesn't it? Because there is what could call a friendly rivalry between Warrington and Wigan.
Yeah, certainly, and there's lots of things that obviously location being one of them. The locations 10, 15 miles apart from each other, both based in the northwest of England, both very good rugby teams. I think Wigan are second in the table, Warrington are third in the table. It's a quarter final of the cup. Which is obviously really exciting. Knockout, whoever loses are knocked out. And there's a lot of we played Warrington 2 weeks ago. Wigan won. We played them in the league, so there's that element. There's a lot of former Wigan players that play for Warrington as well, which makes it a really exciting game on Saturday.
Right. I mean, my link with rugby league, I don't officially support a team. If I did, of course, it would be Wigan.
Of course,
I support Burnley in the Premiership. In football. Is Eddie Waring.
Eddie Waring, yeah.
I mean, he was such a fantastic commentator. He brought the game to life.
Absolutely. I mean, talking of Eddie Waring, there's a fantastic, for any viewers in the UK, there's a fantastic documentary on the iPlayer at the moment, on the BBC iPlayer, called The Water Splash Final, which is Eddie Waring had an iconic voice. He came up with iconic statements, which seem, perhaps when you're looking back at these finals in the 1960s and 70s, seem a bit bizarre now when you watch it back. But there's a documentary on iPlayer about the Water Splash Final, which is basically a final, a rugby league final that was played in waterlogged conditions, should never have been played. And there's I won't spoil it for anyone, but it's a really famous line in the way that the final ends. And Eddie Waring is the vocalization behind that, and it's fantastic to watch. I'll find it on YouTube, Eddie Waring commentary, because he is... he's a fantastic, was a fantastic commentator.
True class. And as you said earlier, when you're actually doing the show, you're bearing in mind it's going to go to podcast earlier, you've got to paint a picture with words. Yeah. He was a master of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. He was fantastic. And it's one of those where there's iconic moments, I think, in sport, no matter what sport you follow. And I think the commentary adds to that spectacle, whether it be, you're a Burnley fan, I'm a Manchester United fan. So for me, it's Clive Tilsley's commentary of the 1999 Champions League final, to go off onto a different sport. That still gives me goosebumps thinking about that. But commentary does have this effect of painting a picture, adding to the scene, adding to the spectacle. And Eddie Waring was obviously fantastic at doing that.
Yeah. So a shout out to BBC Radio 5 Live as well.
Yeah, on BBC 5 Live, we had Dave Woods on the other day, who is a commentator for BBC 5 Live as well. He'll be commentating on the game on Saturday. But yeah, it was fun. He was actually in the studio in Manchester when we interviewed him 2 days ago. He was there in Media City. So yeah, he produced the documentary, I think, which is on BBC iPlayer. Brilliant.
The time's just flown, Sean.
It has, hasn't it?
And you've got a show to do in 2.5 hours, so I know you've got to prepare for that. Yeah. But we like to leave people with, they can find you on the show tonight, but where can they find you? Because I just want to reiterate this. Sean started in January 2018. He then went into the rugby groups and built a reputation there, and then took people from the groups to his video. And he's now, his last count, getting 20,000 views a week, and that's from a standing start in 5 months. I tip my hat to you, sir, and thank you for all the tips and tricks you've given us today. And the final word is yours.
It's actually going to be a thank you to you, Stephen. I know that I put this thank you on a comment on Facebook before, but I thought I was doing really well with the videos, and I'm sure I was a few weeks ago, but I actually downloaded your course and just to go through it. And there's just little things where I think if you think you're doing a successful show, or you might not be getting the viewers that you want, just basically deconstruct the video, go through things like doing the branded posters for an event, stripping the videos down into little clips after the video worked really well. And these are all tips that I got from you, Stephen. So my final word is a thank you to you. And hopefully the show will continue to grow and maybe reflect in a few months' time if that's the case.
I wish you continued success, and thank you for your kind words. To everybody who's watched the show today, thank you very much. Take care. Back again tomorrow with Brigetti at 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. in the UK. This has been Sean and Stephen talking about Wigan Rugby League, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.